Hey there. Welcome to History Chats. Um, so a couple weeks ago, I was looking for something in our collections. Actually, it was probably in storage someplace. It's not really important what. I ended up not finding it. And it's not really the point of this program. Because while I was looking in one of the nooks and crannies that exist all across the building, I came across something very, very cool. Well, it's this. Here, let me show you. Right? Okay, so this may not be as exciting to you. I was very excited to find this because I've been kind of looking out for one of these with what this is for a while now. And lo and behold, apparently we had one all the time. I asked around and nobody seemed to really know where it came from. So it predates most of us working here, which is interesting. Now it does have a cover on. It's got this sort of plastic vinyl black cover. But the cube inside this box has a really cool piece of technology that I wanted to showcase here in History Chats, and that's what I'm going to do today. I don't want to give it away by showing you what it is. I'll let you build up to the question of what this is. I will say it's not that old relative to the format, and it also is super revolutionary and at a high point in the technology when it came out. I mean, that makes sense, right? What the kind of technology this is, though, is something you would use as an informational aid, a presentational aid, if you will. It's a thing, when you're giving a presentation, whether that is a program like this or some sort of informational lecture for, an academic setting. Maybe it's a business setting, you're giving a pitch about a new project or a report about something that's happening, or you're doing some training. Right? Having a visual aid, whether that's a physical representation, reenactment, or something like that, or a picture of some sort, these things are going to be very useful to get the idea across. Also is very helpful if you're trying to explain, like, I don't know, here's our trip out west for the vacation. You're, showing your family at a family get-together. Like, having something tangible or visual that you can show them will really bring to life the story that you're trying to tell. So presentational aids have gone through some development over the years. And before we get to this, we should probably go what's at the other end of the table here. So let's go to that. Okay, so I actually don't have a camera person. It's just me. So I don't know why I thought the camera would follow me. Okay, so like I said, having a presentational aid helps a lot in storytelling, and arguably some of the best ways that you can do this is with a photograph, right? In the 1800s, photography did exist, and they added a lot, but it wasn't as versatile as it's going to become. Certainly not as accessible for your average person. These are going to change that. Now, I will say that there are certainly photographs and other sort of things that you would use to tell stories with visual aids. You could, right? But certainly there's something about, the Brownie camera. Actually, here, let me put some gloves on. We don't have an original Brownie camera, by the way. This is a later version. The originals were pretty revolutionary, though. They were introduced by Kodak Eastman, or Edic Eastman Kodak, maybe, around 1900. They were basically a box made out of cardboard with a sort of leatherette cover. This is a little harder, more of a plasticky thing. This is a later version. This is a Brownie Junior. And originally the Brownies were basically meant to be for kids to learn how to take pictures, if I understand correctly. Super simple. This is the same kind of idea. You put film into the box. You point it at what you want. There's a little viewers here. Frame up what you want, and snap a picture. You hit the activator, it flips through, opens the lens, and for just a second to let light through. What that light then is goes through the lens and it basically etches itself onto the film, which then advances, you'd advance to the next one. When you were done, you would then take that film Not only is this super simple, there's not, you don't have to worry about like what distance, there's no lenses to adjust, there's no dials or anything, it's just point and shoot, right? Super simple. Even later versions, obviously they're going to add more complexity, but the same basic concept is pretty simple, right? So as these very simple things are being developed, there's also a larger change that's happening in the infrastructure, because you can take that film now, and you don't have to have your own, dark room. You can take it to somebody else, say someone who is working as a professional photographer, studios. You could take it to your, I don't know, drugstore or a specific place, and they would then take your film, take it into a darkroom, add a bunch of chemicals to stabilize the film into a transparency, which then you could make prints from. And that's a pretty revolutionary thing. Suddenly, now people in the early 20th century are able to take pictures, not just have pictures taken of them, which were expensive and kind of formalized, but you could take pictures of people, in very informal settings, in the home, in the backyard, at Christmas time, or whatever holidays they were getting together for. And you could take those pictures and you can put them into a photo album, which then you could show or tell. Companies and governmental institutions would use photographs as a way to supplement stories that they're telling, whether it's a report or they're giving a pitch to a new project they're doing, or again, training. All of these things make it super easy to, that adage of a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? It's a great presentational aid to be able to show a picture. Now, one of the cool things about these is it does allow for the prints, but there's actually another interesting development that is more relevant to where we're going to go back to the box. And that is a new type of film that Kodak Eastman put out, developed over the 20s and 30s. Eventually, it sort of solidifies in the 1940s under their brand name Ectochrome, and that's 35 millimeter film. Technically, it's 135 millimeter. There's a whole lots of complexity here we don't need to get into, but essentially 35 millimeter film is a very robust film. It's in color, and it also, the transparency, once you process the film, you get a positive image. This is very cool. Let me grab something and explain why. Okay, so let's say you go to get your stuff developed. Maybe you take it to W.W. Elber's drugstore here in Wausau. In addition to getting prints, you would also then get the transparencies that were created. And this is where the negatives are, right? So this, for example, it looks like it's a black, the reason it's transparency is because you can hold it up, you have to hold it up to the light in order to see, right? Just holding it here, you wouldn't be able to tell what it is. If you had a light behind it, maybe it's like an incandescent light bulb or a window, the sun, or a specialized piece of equipment like light boxes. You could then see what it is. But because it's a negative, it's a black and white color. It's black and white. So when you take the picture, everything that was going to come across as essentially white is going to be translated into black, and everything that's black is going to be white. And this means that when you're looking at a negative, you kind of have to do this mental calculus of, okay, well, that's probably the sky because it's all dark, whereas the ground is all light because those would be flipped. And so, okay, that's where we're at, right? Color positive film, on the other hand, is exactly what it is. This is a version of it that's been mounted in some glass, so you can see it very easily. You can also hold it up to the light, and you can see exactly what it is, right? This, you don't have to do that swift. You don't have to go, oh, the darkness is actually light, so, okay, this is where we're looking. You can just look at it and see exactly what it's taken, colors and all. In this case, there's sort of a glass thing to give it some stability, and then they've put some like canvas tape to allow you to handle it. One of the really cool things about this is not only can you get color film, the Kodak's color 35 millimeter positive film is really the first commercially available type of film, and it really works for a lot of reasons. One of the cool things about this is it's not just a transparency that you have to do this to see what it is, and you can do that and see exactly what it is, right, as opposed to having to do the shift. You also could take this and turn it into a negative, a positive film, right, it is already positive, so that's simpler maybe in some ways. Color is also very more complicated both in the development process as well as the printing process, but we're not going to get into that. The other cool thing is what you can do is you can take something like this and you can put it, not just look through it, but you can actually focus a tight beam of light through it, and you can actually project the image onto a wall or a screen or some sort of surface. So let's talk about slides. And for that, we're going to shift back a little bit. We have a little bit more room to show you some more equipment. Okay, so now I showed you these in part because it's kind of an unusual format to see them this large. Most of the time, they would look well like these. These are pretty familiar. These are individual. Mostly they're like this, right? So there's a plastic, or actually most of the time we're looking at like a cardboard sleeve that goes around this. You stick the image in between, and then you use adhesive to close it together, and that creates a slide. This allows you to have room to handle it without touching the film itself, which is important. And it allows you to make the consistent format to use one of these. Also, just as a note, they're also pretty easy to file away. So for example, we have a lot of these. You know, these are all categorized. You can write what's on the outside. In this case, we have some sort of color coding so we know what we're looking for different programs. Because these can be used to create a variety of programs. But we're not quite there yet. Let's look at this thing. So there's some precedents for this. There's something called a magic lantern that was used in the 1800s. Actually, I have an example of that here. So magic lantern, this is a little bit later. It has the opportunity to do like a film thing, but essentially this is a lantern, right? There's a door here that opens, and you would have a little thing in here. I don't know if you can see in there. For a flame of some sort, it has this little funnel to keep the smoke away from the film and the people using it. This is a bit later in that it has this wheel here that you could put like film through. But generally, what you would do is the light inside would be focused through a lens, and then there would be this opportunity to put usually a glass plate that you would put in that would have like painted on scenes that then would be shot. The focusing of the beam would then be able to project that image in a dark room. Now, of course, we're going to develop this process further with one of these. Ooh, yeah, this is very cool. Because now we're using electricity. So, I'm gonna quick plug this in. All right. So this is pretty cool in that this works, which is remarkable. There's a switch back here that turns on, and then there's a light inside of it. It's the same basic principle as a magic lantern, except this is specifically for slides. So if I grab a slide from in here, let's do, here we go. Let's do this one. So what I can do is I can take this device here, which is basically a receptacle for the slide. I'm going to put this in, so I'm going to pull out Here. Looks like this. Pull it out, take the slide, put it in, like this. Put it, nope. Now it's in place. Pull it up and we're ready to go. Now you do that in the, let me hit the lights real quick. All right, so there you go. Now, admittedly, I think this is backwards, but that can happen. And I don't know if you can see it particularly well here. If I turned off all the light sources, blocked them off, you'd see it a lot clearer. But this allows you then to take another slide and do the same process. And now it's taken the existing slide and pushed it to the back over here, and the other one is left in place. This is, again, backwards and upside down, but you get the idea. So continue doing this. This is pretty cool. Admittedly, this is a later development in the process. Originally, you would have just had one at a time, but this is a pretty cool way to do this. And there were other versions of this that you could use, of course. There's ones that had the slide that would go side to side for the receptacles. But of course, the big development that happens is the slide carousel and viewers. So, in the 1960s, Kodak once again changes things up, and they introduced this new format, which is a wheel. And this wheel, which has slots in here for individual slides, and it has this mechanism down here, where when it's in place, you can see that there's a slot here. It's the size of a slide. So when it's lined up, the slide will then fall into place. And when you want to then move on, there you go, you could then hit the button. It would pop it back into the slide as it moved, because that could move around. And that's what makes the slide projector here. This is a Kodak Ectographic 3A projector, which is pretty useful. Let's see if I can do this. Turn it on. It's going to be a lot brighter than this one, so keep that in mind. There's that very familiar hum of the carousel turning on. And now if I go forward, you can see this particular version. I don't know if you can actually see it. It's not super important. Like I said, we have a bunch of carousels left over from the days when we would do programming like this. I'll turn this off. We have like the fur trade and Native Americans and early schools, World War I, stuff like that. This is an example of a carousel that was produced by somebody else. In this case, I believe it was a national organization and this is basically a program about how to stay cool for public safety reasons. Like if there's a bike accident, this is aimed at kids, which is kind of cartoonish sort of style that you have here. So there's an ice cube. Again, I don't know if you can see this very well. That's all right. Stay cool. This is from the 1970s. And this is pretty common, right? The combination of, you can see how fast we can cycle through these if we need to. And that is pretty revolutionary. It makes it so that you can, there's a lot of them. This particular Carousel has room for 140 slides, which means that you can get a lot of visual presentational aids along over the course of the program. Yeah. And of course, this also is not just adopted by, national organizations teaching bike safety. It's not just historical societies giving programs about Native Americans or the fur trade. It's not just about, your great aunt showing her pictures of her trip to Hawaii or whatever at the family get-together. I guess that could happen. Probably doesn't happen as much these days, but this for a very long time, since they were introduced in the 60s through the 1990s in some circles, were certainly very, very popular. Of course, in the 20th century, we have the further developments that have led to more digital-oriented projectors, PowerPoint, and portable projectors of the sort that we typically use when we do programs today. So if I'm doing a program, I can bring my bag here that has basically the same thing, except it plugs into my laptop and I can do a program. So these days we don't see too many of these slide projectors, but there's a lot of really cool technology that has emerged to make this possible. And ultimately, things brings us back to full circle, the box. Let's bring back the box. All right, back to the box. So this is this is forward. Kind of hid here, but this is Bell and Howell on it. Well, let's open it up and show you what it is. So, this is it. This is this pretty cool piece of technology, as I said. This is what's called the Ringmaster 2. It was produced by Bell and Howell in 1982. The Ringmaster series was produced in the 70s. The Ringmaster 2 kind of is a successor to it, and they would continue to make versions of it that went up through the 1980s. But it is essentially a slide carousel projector sort of. So I'm going to pull out the cable back here and plug it in and show you what it does. Okay, for this one we're showing, this is one of our presentations. This is schoolhouses. Now, many of our presentations over the years, since we haven't used them for a while, no longer have like the notes that we do here. In fact, this is pretty cool because we still have the original handwritten cards explaining what they are. I think at some point the carousel got dropped because some of the slides are not in the right order, but they should give us the basic idea here. All right, we're in. Now it is on, but you turn the lamp inside on, and we're going to advance it. All right, so now we're dropping that first slide down, and there we go. It's a little, I don't know if you can even really see that. Let's get a slide that's not a bunch of text. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that'll work. So I don't know if you can really see this very well. Yeah, let's zoom in a little bit. So by pressing the advance slide, we can switch to another slide, and there you go. The cool thing is this is built in. You don't need to have a whole separate slide projector in order, and like a screen. You don't have to necessarily dim the lights. Like I'm kind of zooming in here so the camera can balance, but generally, like if you're out in the daylight, you can see it pretty clearly. So this is pretty cool, right? You can do a presentation without as much infrastructure and allowing you to do some cool things. I'm going to zoom back out here. And hopefully, there we go. Also, one kind of cool thing here is that it also has a built-in slide projector. So if you did want to put it onto a screen, you could do that. It's not in focus. Again, I don't know if that matters. Yeah, but you get the idea. So that's pretty cool. You can also make it full screen, so kind of crop it natively. The thing that makes this different than the Ringmaster 1, and also Kodak had their own version of this, and other companies I believe did too, but Bell & Howell was certainly one of the big producers of slide projector technology at the time. The thing that made the 2 new and revolutionary was the fact that it wasn't just the screen and the projector, it was also an audio component. So there is a microphone. Now, unfortunately, the microphone doesn't work, but you can plug it in, and there'd be a PA. There's a speaker inside. There's also a thing you can use to click remote this. Wait, hold on. There we go. So I can click this button remotely, have it go advance. The also pretty cool thing is in this, it has a cassette player. So this is a cassette tape. This is a 3-minute one-way, so it doesn't have to rewind. But you can actually plug this into the side here, and you can hit play. Actually, before I hit play, I should clarify what this is, because it's going to be kind of weird. This is a recording. This is what was left in this when I found it. This is a 1990s, 1990, there was an album by a group called Filet, which is from a Cajun group from Louisiana, called Two Left Feet, and this is the title track off of that. I'll play a little bit here. So you get the idea. You can have it playing. You can also have it then sync to it, which is pretty cool here. So now it's automatically going to kind of go along with it. You could kind of record it so that it, or the program it so that you could have it advance at the right times. And you could also record just narration in this. That was kind of the idea. All right, you get the idea. I'm gonna stop. The original manual, which I also had with this, which is very cool, it has a whole section in here about how to make helpful hints for creating and producing your own superior sound/slide program. There's a lot of really cool things in here about how to make a good program, including things like how to record. Record in the same place. You don't have to do it all in one sitting, but if you do it in multiple places, know that the sound is going to be different, which is like, yeah, that makes sense. One of the really interesting things is when it says about the slides, is it says, use visual things that are going to be interesting. Use color, use graphics and graphs. What I hadn't thought about until I saw this, and it makes a lot of sense, is that, how do you make it interesting and colorful? It suggests, many typewriters can use colored ribbons, or the information can be typed on colored paper. Colored plastic adhesive tape works well for borders and for graphics. Colored construction paper makes a good background or frame for titles, and a bright background for close-up photos. The idea is, how do you make a slide with text and stuff? Well, you lay it out physically, and you take a picture of it using, a camera like this, with Ektachrome film, the stuff that the color positive images. Now there were other ways to do it. Places might have, there's some technology that you could use to take an image and turn it into a slide, but that was very expensive. And this is kind of what things were like before the digital age and before Photoshop. Something I really like about this is that this is a piece of technology that was designed for something very, very specific. for giving presentations in situations where you didn't need a slide for smaller groups of people. Likely we were using it, because this isn't part of our collection. This is not something from our archives or our artifact collections. This is just something we had, like typewriters left over that nobody uses anymore, or old monitors. Like, this is just something that we had in the 90s and we were using and just kind of forgot that we had it, which is pretty cool that is the case. It's gone from being useful. It's like someday my portable Epsom projector might end up making it into the collections as, this is what we used to do programs back in the day. I think it's something pretty cool about that. I think there's also something very cool about this from my perspective as somebody who uses PowerPoint to do a presentation almost every week. Like, I am old enough to have had slide projector programs be a thing that I did as a youth, but I never really had to put one together myself. So, I don't know, there's something really interesting about it. And when I came across this, Minocqua has an amazing historical society. If you've never been up to Minocqua's historical society, find yourself up in the area, you should go check it out. And one of their exhibits had basically one of these, a slightly different model for Kodak version. And I was like, that is an amazing piece of tech. I'm not somebody who's like a collector or somebody who has to have something physical necessarily. But I was like, ooh, checking eBay listings, like, am I going to pay $300 to have this shipped to me? Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Never. I was tempted, and I don't need to. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this, to be completely transparent with you, except do this video because I think it's pretty cool and I wanted to share. But yeah, this is the Ringmaster 2 by Bell & Howell, and sort of a brief overview of the transparency history and the visual aids for presentations that led to its creation. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed. We'll be back next week with some more history chats of a more presentational variety. I don't think I'm going to do another one of these intricate videos like this again for a while. Who knows? But probably next year before I do that. But we have more history to round out the year here this December, so come back next week Thursday at 12:30 for some more history chats. And in the meantime, have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.